Over the past decade, we have seen advanced driver assistance systems, or ADAS, move from being a high-end optional extra to a mid-range package bonus to increasingly being added as standard. For those unfamiliar, driver assistance systems are those bobbins that shout at you if you're crossing a lane line, provide blind spot or cross-traffic detection, and maybe keep you centered in the lane. If you've got a vehicle with adaptive cruise control, they'll keep you travelling a fixed distance from the car in front and maybe even help you out in stop-and-go traffic. One of the leaders in including this technology as standard across all vehicles was Tesla. Although it's now by no means alone, Tesla's Level 2 driver assistance system, Autopilot, provides all of those features and, in its enhanced autopilot form, can perform more advanced actions such as lane changes for you. At this point in time, it's not alone in that. Multiple manufacturers offer similar systems with varying levels of competency, but it's still not across the board for base trims to include all the features Autopilot does. Tesla has been crystal clear that it believes that driver assistance systems have massively improved the safety of its vehicles compared to non-assisted vehicles on the road. But is that true? A recent re-examination of its stats suggests that its safety improvement might be overstated. So let's dig into the numbers and see where the discrepancy lies. But first, a quick reminder to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell. And if you're not seeing videos from us, check the YouTube video tab for the channel because we publish nearly every day. You can help us keep doing that from under $1 a month. I'll tell you how at the end of the video. With the uptick in use on the public roads, a variety of driver assistance, autonomous and semi-autonomous vehicles, and the rollout of Tesla's FSD beta program, there's been much more of a vocal debate online and in local and national governments about how we should test and legislate for these kinds of autonomous and semi-autonomous systems. Tesla has been very vocal about the enhanced safety provided by its autonomous systems and has used that safety advantage as a foil against criticism from US regulatory agencies of Tesla for pushing against the boundaries of current regulations, some of which have resulted in Tesla limiting or altering features following pushback again from regulatory authorities. Part of working out how and whether to legislate is understanding what impact these systems have on safety. And back in April of 2021, Tesla CEO Elon Musk commented on Tesla's autopilot system saying, quote, "Tesla with autopilot engaged now approaching 10 times lower chance of accident than average vehicle," and cited Tesla's Q1 2021 safety report, which identified one accident in a Tesla with autopilot engaged every 4.19 million miles, an accident every 2-ish million miles with just active safety features, every million miles for driving without autopilot or active safety features in a Tesla, versus an accident every 418,000 miles for non-autopilot, non-Tesla vehicles. This is a statement which, on the face of it, has to be a slam dunk for autopilot. It would seem to pretty clearly support a rapid rollout of such safety features. But back in October of last year, a pre-press study was made available for review that examined Tesla's report in more detail, and while it did say that autopilot improved driver safety, it was much more equivocal about how effective autopilot-like systems are. One of the first problems the study brought up is a lack of comparable data. While we collect all sorts of accident statistics from all sorts of sources, there's no standard method of collecting them, and that makes comparing them incredibly difficult. If you're counting the number of Han Solo figurines you've got, and I'm counting the number of Captain Kirk figures I've got, the two just aren't comparable. For an example, looking at California's accident statistics, many automated vehicle accidents fall below the police severity threshold, which would require them to be reported into the police database. And that's particularly troublesome in terms of accident statistics because, at least anecdotally, many autonomous vehicles are challenged and more likely to fail, by which I mean crash, in urban and semi-urban environments where the speed limits are lower and so reportability may disappear. So it's reasonable to think that a potentially significant number of low-speed collisions might be occurring in testing that aren't getting into the stats. On the other hand, Tesla's accident statistics, which are drawn from telematics data, assume a likely impact speed of greater than 20 kilometers per hour, or about 12 miles per hour, so maybe that helps with comparability? Oh, and just before we go on, a little brief tangent. What is particularly fascinating in the review of the data, at least if you're a geek like me, is that while many of the studies demonstrated that autonomous vehicles were performing better and less likely to be involved in a collision, one study found that they were 5 times more likely to be hit from behind. Which could suggest a number of things, like maybe autonomous vehicles identify risks and stop more suddenly, or that humans are pretty terrible drivers and leave too small of a gap. Maybe it says that phantom braking, that's where ADAS systems abruptly slow down hard or stop because something in the scene is interpreted as a barrier or a danger, but the system is just misinterpreting things, might be causing collisions. It also might be that humans don't respond well to the way that autonomous vehicles drive. At least, not yet. Okay, back from our tangent. Another thing to be aware of is that active safety systems encompass much more than just modern ADAS systems. Electronic stability control and anti-lock brakes, for example, are considered active safety systems, but the difference between having a car with just ABS and having one with a full suite of ADAS is pretty vast. So if an accident stat is cited as vehicles having an active safety system, that's very different from one which has a fully fledged sophisticated ADAS system. And perhaps the other most important thing to be aware of is the raw accident stats for the US almost certainly include a very large number of vehicles with no ADAS systems at all. In fact, for at least another 2 years, when we say quote-unquote average vehicle in the US, that still includes a vast number of vehicles without even electronic stability control and ABS, at least based on the average age. Having those systems wasn't a requirement for cars sold in the US until 2012, and the average age of cars in the US is about 12 years. So Musk is specifically indicating that autopilot is 10 times less likely to be involved in an accident. Actually, you should say collision. Accident suggests there's no one to blame. Than the average vehicle, and the Tesla stats support that, but these other studies still don't. Why? Well, that's because autopilot is usually engaged on highways and freeways, at least if it's used in the way that Tesla specifically state that it should be used. The exact wording in the Tesla Model 3 owner's manual, by the way, is that autosteer, the lane centering element of autopilot, is, quote, intended for use on controlled access highways, end quote, and further notes that it should not be used in, quote, areas where bicycles or pedestrians may be present, end quote. And that mainly divided highway usage pattern is borne out in a study by Friedman et al. Cited in the study we're talking about. Friedman et al.'s study shows that more than 90% of autopilot activations happened on roads with speeds greater than 55 miles per hour. That's about 90 kilometers an hour. Now, that Friedman study was actually withdrawn for other technical reasons, but the authors apparently confirmed that the section on autopilot use versus road speed was correct. So in that case, is it fair to compare the accident statistics for autopilot engaged and not engaged, which is what Tesla's safety statistics compare? Even more so, is it fair to compare raw accident data for autopilot use with the national average for accidents? And the argument being made here is that no, it's not. National collision statistics and Tesla's data are just not directly comparable, like Han Solo and Captain Kirk. And to do so is misleading. But that doesn't mean it's not possible. And what the study's authors did was attempt to work out the ratio of incidents based on road type, and also factor in driver age for the national motor vehicle collision data, which seems to end up being kind of a proxy for the driver's experience, and create a formula to mathematically match the data between Tesla's own data and the national statistics. The authors are also at pains to remind readers that autopilot may not work in poor weather conditions, and I should note here that Tesla's owner's manual says not to use it in those conditions, but those are also the weather conditions where crashes are more likely, biasing the results against humans anyway. So what is the conclusion, having applied that standard correction? Well, autopilot is still, usually, safer than just using Tesla's active safety systems. but it's currently way closer than those raw figures suggested. And in fact, in 2019, the adjusted stats indicate humans and Autopilot traded places for the lead several times. And again, hopefully people are disengaging Autopilot when things get tricky. So, yeah. Okay, so you can look at this as people should be much more careful with statistics, but the real lesson here is that as we approach a future in which many more vehicles are going to have a mixture of autonomous, semi-autonomous and advanced driver assistance features, we also need to work out how to both test them and record data about accidents in a way that actually helps us work out what works and what doesn't. We need accident statistics that record the type of road that people were on and ideally what features were in use at the time. And we need, urgently, to work out how we test the competency of driver assistance and autonomous systems, because otherwise we're all flying, or at least driving, blind. That's it for today. Thank you for watching, and we'll be back with more soon. If you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to leave your thoughts below or in our free to join Discord chat room. There's a link below, and if you haven't already, make sure you've subscribed to this channel and our other channel, Transport Evolved Take 2, and give the bell a gentle ding to make sure you're told when our next video goes live. Thanks on behalf of the entire TE crew go out to the folks on my right for being our $15 to $49 a month supporters. Special thanks to our $50 a month patrons, Chris Maxwell, Brian Newton, Bennett Elder, Dave Kitchen, Michael Goad, Ricky Leong, Andrew Martin, Guido Drahota, Brophy Wolf, Tesla in the Gong, Gordon C., Stephen O'Donoghue, Kyle Hodgson, Anthony Coates, Regine Fellows, Rory Litwin, Anonymous Freak, Jim Burness and Denny Hyde, and our deepest gratitude to our $100 a month Patreon supporters, Marcel Ward, Reggie Watts, Joe Bresney, JP Fagerback, Will Graylan, Matthew Drobnak, John Lyons, Christopher Lee Jones, Laura Reynolds, Paul Conway, Ellery Hensley, and Ian. Feeling left out? You can join Patreon at the link below. Hit the join button below to support us on YouTube or show us your support through Bitcoin, Ko-fi or our cool swag store. Links are below. Thanks for joining me, and as always, keep evolving.